Today, we're looking at a highly professional, incredibly dry, and utterly terrifying bureaucratic autopsy. We're reviewing the official SCP Foundation file for SCP-9626. But, this isn't your typical monster locked in a cell. No, this is a case study of a completely Kafkaesque human resources nightmare. We're going to trace exactly how a perfectly mundane workplace dispute systematically spiraled into this surreal investigation, one that ultimately resulted in Junior Researcher Jason Arroyo being legally and permanently reclassified by his employer as a fruit bat. Okay, let's dive into this incredibly structured 5-part review. We're looking at the incident report and escalation, the statistical justification, a bureaucratic catch-22, the exit interview, and permanent containment. A quick message. Accessing these archives requires Level 3 clearance. Ensure your credentials are up to date by hitting the subscribe button to stay informed on future containment breaches. Back to the video. Starting right off with Section 1, the incident report and escalation. Now, to really understand this anomaly, we have to treat the absurd premise here with absolute deadpan seriousness. Because, well, that is exactly how HR treated it. Tracing the timeline, the origins of the Arroyo incident are completely mundane. On October 31st, 2022, Junior Researcher Jason Arroyo filed a standard workplace harassment complaint against his boss, Senior Researcher Anders Waller, over some inappropriate remarks. Literally just 2 days later, on November 2nd, Waller submitted an anonymous, retaliatory report suspecting that Arroyo was actually a Philippine naked-backed bat. Now, initially, by November 25th, a preliminary investigation logically dismissed the accusation. They noted Arroyo had been an employee for 3 years, he held multiple postgraduate degrees, and fundamentally, bats are just highly unlikely to pursue secondary education or find gainful employment. But Waller wouldn't let it go. He escalated the whole thing to Senior Human Resources Manager Liam Hurst. And get a load of the superficially ridiculous evidence Waller used to weaponize HR against his subordinate. A high-pitched voice, large ears, and a preference for working the night shift. In literally any normal corporate environment, this gets tossed out immediately. But once this hits senior HR management, the gears of a much darker, unquestioning bureaucracy started turning. Let's look at how that happened in Section 2, the statistical justification. Once this case landed on Liam Hurst's desk, we see this horrific, absolute failure of logic. Notice the sheer audacity of Hurst's maddening mathematical proof. When someone asked how a bat could possibly be employed at the Foundation, Hurst used this breakdown. He stated that, actually, 20% of all mammalian species on Earth are bats, and 100% of all Foundation employees are mammals. Therefore, he concluded, mathematically speaking, it is completely sound that an employee could be a bat. The logic is so broken, totally ignoring how populations and employment actually work, but within the rigid, unquestioning confines of this HR department, it was accepted as cold, hard fact. And then, of course, came the procedural delays. The investigation just completely stalled for months, while the Department of Semantics debated whether HR even had jurisdiction over non-human employees in the first place. That wasn't even settled until March 1st, 2023. But rather than seeing this bureaucratic delay for what it obviously was, Hurst weaponized it. He cited the sheer length of time as further proof of Arroyo's non-human status. He basically concluded, hey, if Arroyo were just an ordinary human, it wouldn't have required a 3-month-long investigation to prove his identity. And this brilliantly illustrates our next point in Section 3, a bureaucratic catch-22. Look at this terrifying legal paradox that closed like a vice around Jason Arroyo. Because Arroyo's status was technically considered disputed, the Foundation mandated that no assumptions could be made, to avoid any appearance of bias. As a result, Arroyo was housed in a sterile, non-humanoid containment chamber. He was entirely stripped of his human rights under Foundation policy because he was an alleged bat. But, simultaneously, he was denied general animal welfare protocols because his bat status wasn't officially confirmed yet. So in trying to remain purely neutral, the bureaucracy stripped him of absolutely every ethical protection on the books. Then the situation takes a seriously grim pivot. Since Arroyo was deemed a bat, HR determined he was officially unfit for his role as a researcher. So, Hurst filed a standard request for termination, which, let's be real, in the Foundation's context, usually means physical death. However, the Ethics Committee actually blocked his physical termination. Why? Because the Philippine naked-backed fruit bat is an endangered species protected under international conservation laws. So, thwarted by animal conservation laws, Hurst merely pivots to Step 2 and files to terminate Arroyo's employment instead. Which brings us right into Section 4, the claustrophobic April 4th exit interview. This is where the pacing accelerates, and whatever tiny shred of logic remains just fully breaks down. As Arroyo is literally pleading for his humanity, begging to just go back to his job, Hearst responds with this maddening corporate HR speak. The most important thing to us is that you feel heard right now. We want you to feel heard. I mean, it is peak gaslighting. Hearst effortlessly deflects Arroyo's desperate pleas by focusing entirely on the emotional optics of the meeting, totally ignoring the fact that he is currently processing a man as a literal bat. The conversation traps Arroyo in an endless, dizzying loop. Hearst tells him he can't go back to work with his team due to the, quote, safety concern of rabies. Arroyo says, fine, I'll take a rabies test right now. But Hearst says they can't legally ask him to disclose that medical information, so Arroyo just has to go home. Hearst refuses, stating they can't legally let an alleged bat loose in public. Finally, Arroyo just hits his breaking point, shouting, is the problem that I'm too much of a bat or that I'm not enough of a bat? He can't stay because he's a man who's considered a bat, and he can't leave because he's a bat who's considered a man. And that leads us to the tragic climax in Section 5, permanent containment. Exhausted, cornered, and desperate for this whole nightmare to just end, Arroyo makes a fatal miscalculation. He completely surrenders to the gaslighting. Just seeking any way out of the dispute, he falsely confesses. He looks at Hearst and says, I admit it, you're right, I'm a bat. His logic is tragic but understandable. He assumes that if he admits to being just an ordinary bat, then there's no anomaly, there's no dispute, and the Foundation will just toss him outside. But the absolute second those words leave his mouth, the bureaucratic trap springs shut. The dispute is instantly resolved. Arroyo is no longer an alleged bat, he is now a confirmed bat on the official record. Hearst immediately stamps the termination paperwork. He casually hits the intercom for security. Containment is initiated. As security drags Arroyo away, he's desperately screaming, listen to me, I'm a bat, I'm a bat, trying so hard to hold on to his fabricated exit strategy. But Hearst just smiles, leans back in his office chair, and delivers this chilling final sentence. Bats can't talk. Think about that. Because Arroyo has now officially confessed to being an ordinary bat, the fact that he can speak human language suddenly transforms him from a mundane employee into a highly anomalous talking bat. And what does the Foundation do with anomalous talking animals? Permanent containment. It's a perfectly executed, absolutely inescapable trap. Arroyo's very attempt to comply with the absurd system was exactly what doomed him to it forever. So what you should really take away from this explainer is the terrifying power of procedural blindness. What happens when the system designed to protect you mathematically proves you no longer exist? It's a chilling, unforgettable reminder of how unchecked, apathetic bureaucracy can strip away your humanity one perfectly documented, highly professional step at a time. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one. This concludes today's briefing. If you wish to maintain your current clearance level and ensure continued access to the Versarian database, a subscription to this channel is mandatory. Secure your connection by leaving a like on this file, and log your requests in the comments section below to dictate which anomaly we unseal next. Stay vigilant and expect your next set of logs every day. Secure, contain, protect.